right, Chris. So let's jump into a little bit of some Utah Utes football. What are your thoughts on them?
Here's the thing. I love Utah. I do. And guys, everybody that knows, that watches the fucking podcast knows that I bag on the Pac-12 on a daily. Utah's not one of those teams I bag on, though. Reason why, because they kind of remind me of an SEC/Big Ten school. They play a little defense over there. They like to run the football. I think Kyle Whittingham is a very underrated coach, Christian. I truly do, in the landscape of college football. They're coming off what? I mean, if they win it this year, they would three-peat it over there, which would be, I think, would be crazy. I don't think that's going to happen this year, unfortunately, with just the strength of schedule over there in the Pac-12. But last year, hey, they went 10-4. I believe they were 7-2 in conference. They were 11th in points per game, 38.6 points per game. Christian, let's put some work in. You know that. Opponents were averaging 21.4, and that's where I talked about the defense guys. That's awesome. And that's why I love Utah. They play defense. They truly do, especially in that conference where offenses run rampant over there in the Pac-12 with Washington and Oregon and USC and Oregon State and all those guys. So the big thing why I like – do I think they could three-peat this year? I know that wasn't the question here, but that's everybody's talking about. Utah's won this back-to-back years over there, Christian. Can they three-peat? I don't think so, even though they're bringing back, 14 starters? I think the biggest question mark for Utah this year, and where I could see them winning 10, 11 games, if it does happen, I think their floor is probably 8, and I'll put that out there. Cam Rising. Love this kid to death, man. But if he stays healthy, I believe this has got to be his, 6th year, Christian, if I'm not mistaken. He's been there forever, right? If I'm not mistaken, he's ready to go week 1 against Florida, which can't fucking wait, Florida fans. I'll touch on that later. I actually think Utah's going to be great this year. They just schedule's pretty tough. We'll dive into that a little bit more here at the end. Christian, want to hear your thoughts on Utah. I kind of rattled off some stats there. I'm sure you're surprised by that because, I don't bring any stats to the table. It's always you.
Excited, man. Turn into a stat war over there. Like, man, listen, I want you to know right now, you see all this Georgia stuff. You see the Nebraska hat back there. I'm buying some Utah shit for that game against Florida.
Oh, absolutely. 100%.
I'm going to turn into
100%.
the biggest week 1 college football. I'm going to turn into the biggest Utah fan out there.
Absolutely.
We're getting after it. So, listen, I think this is, and you touched on it perfectly. Kyle Whittingham, the coach, entering year number 19 at the helm for him. And he's coming off 2 10-4 seasons. Not bad at all.
No.
2 Rose Bowl losses back-to-back. 2 Pac-12 championships too. So not too bad. They beat a very dangerous USC team last year twice.
Love it.
Just to do that once, that's pretty good. But they did it twice, and I like it. You touched on it. Cam Rising coming off 3,532 touchdown season last year. They also bring back 2 really talented running backs in Jaquindon Jackson and Micah Bernard. They combined for 1,400 yards last year and 14 touchdowns. Like you said, they run the ball. There's really not a whole lot of stuff they don't do well as a team, and that's a staple of a Kyle Whittingham team, man. I think, to me, it's getting a little interesting because they do lose Dalton Kincaid, who I think is going to be a fantastic. He was their leading receiver last year.
Was he not the first tight end taken off the board too in the draft, if I'm not mistaken?
He was, yeah.
Yeah, he's a stud. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's gonna hurt, but they've got some other guys, man. They bring back, Devon Vale, and they also have Money Parks, so they combined for 1,100 yards and 7 touchdowns last year. They also have 2 really good tight ends that are going to step up and replace some of that, right? In Brant Kuthi, I think I'm saying that right. Brant Kuth. You get what I'm saying. I know I've heard this kid's name before, though. And Thomas Yasmin, who both of them combined for 500 yards and get this 9 touchdowns last year, dude. That's pretty good.
That's a lot of good. That's good production there.
Yeah, for your second string tight ends.
Yeah.
I think they're going to be more than okay on the offensive side of the ball this year, provided everybody stays healthy. But the good thing is they got depth, man. They've lost a lot, but they also bring back a lot of depth, and they do a really good job on both sides of the ball at being able to rotate guys in and out. That's one thing, and we've talked about it consistently at this level, you got to be able to rotate guys, get them some playing time, so that way when you have a lot of these guys depart, it's really easy for you to kind of next man slot up, and then you just keep rotating. You touched on it a little bit. Utah finished 27th in total defense last year, which I think is fantastic. Especially for a Pac-12 school. I mean, we're a little biased sometimes. We'll be the first to admit that, but I think 27th for a Pac-12 team total defense with those offenses you got to go against. That's pretty fucking good. They only gave up more than 30 points 3 times last year, dude. 3 times.
That's pretty good.
That's insane. To me, where I think they're going to be really good at this year, Chris, is on the defensive side of the ball. They bring back multiple players who contributed for them on all 3 levels. I'm just kind of give you the top 3 guys that I think are going to make the best contributions for them, and we'll kind of get into it. So defensive end, Van Fillinger, he had 5 sacks last year. He's coming back. Linebacker Kareem Reed had 5 sacks to go alongside of 72 tackles, 3 pass deflections, and 1 interception. And then the secondary is going to be led by safety Cole Bishop, who had 83 tackles, and that was actually led the team last year for him.
Nice.
Again, they have to find a way to replace guys like Clark Phillips and certain people like that, but they rotate those corners in left and right. The secondary's been rotating and playing. They've got their a lot of that front sevens coming back, and they played some good snaps. I mean, this is going to be a team, in my opinion, this year, Chris, that's going to have a really, really good shot to do some stuff here.
Yeah, no, I think, like I said, man, I'm pretty high on them this year. I just with Washington, Oregon, and USC this year, it's tough to three-peat in anything. You know what I mean? As far as trying to win that Pac-12 crown. But I will say this, though. The only question I really have for Utah, other than I did say Cam Rising, if he can stay healthy, I think their offense is going to be tremendous. Kyle Whittingham, dude, he's an old-school coach, loves to run the football, throw the ball at tight ends, off the play action type of game. The big thing with me, though, they did lose quite a bit off that secondary last year, and I think that's going to be a little bit tough this year if they can fill in those pieces, which I do think they will. That's kind of my other question on the other side of the ball. But special teams also, I believe, I'm going to bring this up. I don't bring up special teams, but it's a huge component. Ask us Nebraska fans about that a couple years ago. They do bring in a kicker from Colorado who's pretty goddamn good. So that they were atrocious last year. That actually kind of cost them a couple games, if anybody remembers. So I'm pretty pumped, though, about Utah in where they're going, dude. I think they're going to be right in there. They're going to be a tough out. And I said it. Week 1. You guys are going down from Florida. You guys are already on my shit list already. I'll put some money down on Utah. Easy. I'll take the points too.
Yeah, dude, you're absolutely right. So with that being said, Chris, let's transition into their record prediction. I mean, where do you got the Utes at this year, man? What do you think they're going to be doing?
Win-wise, let's break this down a little bit here, Christian. I think it's a win against Florida, right? I'll break it down real quick, just off the rip here. Baylor, we did do a show on Baylor. I think Baylor's going to be good this year. I don't think they beat Utah though. I think Utah's got too much for them. Weber State, UCLA. UCLA is kind of one of these teams. People are either you're high on UCLA this year or you're not. There's a big one right there in Oregon State though. I got educated a little bit by a lot of people a couple weeks ago about how good Oregon State's supposed to be. Apparently. Some mouth breathers think that they're winning a national title this year. I'm not going that far, but I do think Oregon State's going to be tough. I still like Utah. I still think Utah's the better team. They got the better coach. Cal, there's your big game, USC and Oregon, right, Christian? That's, I've been working on my preseason rankings here. We'll come out with those in like another month here or so, or maybe even a couple weeks here. I'm not sure, Christian, but I got USC and Oregon. I think they beat them this year. I do, and it pains me to say that, especially about USC. But I think it comes down to just USC's got to do something one of these days with Lincoln Riley. Like they had a great year last year, Christian. You know that. It's at SC. I think that's tough. Utah's a hell of a lot better at home than they are on the road. We know that. So I'm gonna pencil in a loss. I got a loss to Oregon and Bo Nix and those guys. Arizona State. The Washington game is interesting to me, but this is where I like I like Penix a lot, man. I do this year. Washington had a really great season last year. So I have 3 losses there. I got them finishing out the year, and you goddamn right they're beating Colorado that last week. That's not a question. But I have a 9-3 is what I have wrote down, Christian. I could see them getting to 10-2, 8-4 at worst. And that might be an Oregon State loss, something like that. They're not losing to Florida. Let's just get that out there. That's where I'm at, Christian. I'm actually, when I knew that we were talking about Utah this week, I was very interested to see what you have to say about these guys and see if you actually know college football or not.
And we're not too far apart there. I'm not going to come out and say like 5-7 or some crazy shit. Listen, I think this is what I'm going to say. I think I got them at 11-1. 11-1 in the regular season. Reason why I'm saying that is I think they'll either lose to USC or Washington. They've had USC's number for years past.
Okay.
Last year. I really think they can beat them again this year, but I think somewhere along the way, it might be Washington, maybe Oregon, right? But here's the thing, man. Yes, Oregon did beat them last year. They get a lot of firepower back this year, right? Utah does. And I have a feeling if they can figure out a way to put up at least 30 on them this year, they should be all right. Oregon only beat them 20-17 last year, so it was a pretty close game. But obviously, this isn't last year. I get it, right? I mean, I could have gone. I really, in my heart, wanted to go 10-2 season, but where the fuck is the fun in that? You know what I mean? Where is the fun in saying you're going to go for the 3rd year in a row, 10 wins?
It's about time you grab that little Smoky of yours if you can find it and put your money where your mouth is. Finally, no, I like it. I'm not saying Utah's a very interesting team this year. They're a team I think could finish in the top 6 or 7 this year. They're also a team that maybe finishes outside the top 20, just depending how it goes. And I think a lot of that, in my opinion, not to cut you off, Christian, but like if he's healthy, which God, he's been up and down in his career. He is a 6-year fucking senior, though. Guy's been around forever. He's a veteran. We like guys like that, especially at the helm. I'm with you, man. I'm just so stuck on the Oregon, USC, Washington phase this year because they're all bringing back their quarterbacks. That's where it's like, damn, and I know those offenses are probably as good, if not better. But again, you mentioned it perfectly. Their fucking defense is awesome. Utah has had the best defense in the Pac-12 the last 2 or 3 years, in my opinion. So if they can keep that up and fill those holes, especially in the secondary, shit, I'll put them. I would agree with you. I would put them up in a 10 or maybe, God, man, maybe even 11-1 season. That would be amazing for Utah. I actually hope it happens. I like Utah by far the best out of the Pac-12 schools. That's just my opinion and personally, but very good take though, Christian. I mean, I like how you put your money where your mouth is on that one, dude. 11-1, he says.
11-1, man. You gotta respect it. Like I said, dude. Every time you get down on Utah, they always shock you.